Josh. Senator Warren, thanks so much for joining me at this critical moment.
Happy to be here with you.
Ahead of the Senate Banking Committee's confirmation vote on Stephen Miron to be Federal Reserve Governor, you told your colleagues that if you're in favor of Federal Reserve independence, then you should vote no. Miron was confirmed by the full Senate last night. Today he's participating in the Fed's monetary policy meeting, but he has not resigned from his position at the White House. He's on a leave of absence. How could Miron threaten Federal Reserve independence?
So look, Miron is just there to be Donald Trump's sock puppet. And Miron himself was not willing to speak at all independently when he was in the hearing. And as you rightly point out, he hasn't even given up his job with Donald Trump. So he won't reveal any of his communications with the president, nothing. But understand what this means for the American people. When you undermine Fed independence like this, and the idea is that instead of having the president over here making political decisions and the Fed over here, when it comes to things like interest rates, doing the best economic decisions they can based on the data, when you undermine that, then when the time comes that the Fed has to make some hard decisions, and sometimes they do, then at that moment, Fed can't do it, and that means costs go up for everybody in America. Everybody who's got a credit card or a payday loan or a mortgage or a car loan. And then ultimately, that increase in the cost of credit, because no one can rely on the independence of the Fed, filters through to the cost of every single thing that Americans buy. Costs are already up in America right now. Inflation is already on the rise. Undermining the independence of the Fed pushes our economy in the wrong direction.
Miron's confirmation comes as President Trump is trying to fill the central bank with members who are in favor of lower interest rates. And the president tried to remove Fed Governor Lisa Cook. An appeals court rejected that last night, and the president is expected to appeal that to the Supreme Court. If the high court were to uphold the president's firing, is there a place for Congress to step in and amend the Federal Reserve Act to create a narrower definition of for cause for when a president would want to remove a member of the Fed?
So look, if the Supreme Court follows the law, then Lisa Cook will keep her job. If they don't follow the law, certainly Congress could change the law. The problem is that right now, the Republicans do whatever it is that Donald Trump wants. And if I can, Jennifer, let me just pick on one point in the way you described what happened here. It's not that Donald Trump wants people who will lower interest rates. He wants people who will do whatever he wants them to do. Right now, that is lower interest rates. Maybe that would be his answer forever. But the real point is not an economic policy point. It's a power point. Donald Trump wants to control everything. And when he is making his own political decisions, ultimately, that will undermine prices, it will undermine the efforts to keep inflation under control, and that will undermine the economic health of our country.
To your point, the Federal Reserve set to make a policy decision tomorrow, widely expected to lower its benchmark interest rate by 25 basis points. The central bank is grappling with sticky inflation. It's running about a full percentage above the Fed's 2% target. At the same time, the job market has weakened over the last 3 months. You said the Fed needs to make tough decisions, and this is one of those moments. What would you like to see the Fed do right now? Are you in favor of a rate cut?
So look, I've argued for 2 years now that I want the Fed to cut rates. I thought that inflation was well under control, headed in the right direction, and the Fed could bring down the interest rates. The problem now is that Donald Trump's chaos has so weakened the economy that we're watching the first signs of stagflation, and that is that inflation is tilting up and unemployment is tilting up simultaneously. The Fed, of course, only has one tool, and it uses it differently. If inflation is going up, it raises interest rates. If unemployment is going up, it lowers interest rates. And this is the box that Donald Trump has created. You know, I think there's something important to underline here, and that is the chairman of the Federal Reserve said last month that the Fed would have lowered interest rates last February if only Donald Trump had not created so much economic chaos. So the way I see this is one person right now is responsible for the high costs at the higher interest rates and for the increasing problems that we're seeing in the employment market. And that one person is Donald Trump.
But should we anticipate, do you think the rate cut is the right thing to do here, given what's going on the inflation front, given your concerns?
I think that Donald Trump and the chaos in this economy are backing the Fed into a box. I am really worried now about those unemployment numbers. I still want to see the Fed cut interest rates. But it would have been so much better to cut them when we had a strong economy and strong employment.
The president has said that he has narrowed down his pick for the next Federal Reserve chair to 3 candidates, including former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, current Fed Governor Chris Waller, and the director of his National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett. If nominated, would you support any of those gentlemen?
Look, I'm going to ask the same tough questions. Are you really independent? Can you actually answer the question, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Do you have enough independence to stand up for what you believe is right on economic policy? Or are you just going to be one more person who does whatever it is the great Donald Trump wants? And the reason that is so undermining is it's not whether or not Donald Trump is right or wrong. It's that we will have lost, under Donald Trump's efforts, all of the independence of the Fed, and that undercuts confidence. Confidence that, in fact, we will have a Fed that will be harsh on inflation. Confidence around the world that people say we can count on independent economic decisions from the United States of America. You lose that confidence, prices go up for everybody.
Switching gears, Senator, President Trump has said that he believes we should scale back quarterly earnings reports to twice a year because it would cut down costs and would allow management to focus on longer-term business objectives. SEC Chair Paul Atkins has said in a statement that he is going to prioritize this. What do you make of this? Does this hurt transparency for investors who are investing in publicly traded companies? And if the SEC were to pass this, would you step in to block it?
So yes, it undermines transparency. That is the whole point here. Investors do not need to see less information about the companies that they are investing in. After all, those companies are using investors' money. But this is the standard Donald Trump trick. And that is, if you don't like the numbers, then try to get them out of sight. And that's what he's trying to do. What did he do when he didn't like the employment numbers? He fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Evidently, he did not understand that would not stop the reporting of labor numbers, nor did that person have control over those numbers. But it's the same kind of thing here. Donald Trump does not want real numbers reported in any of the economic areas because he knows he's in trouble on the economy. And remember, this is a president who ran promising to lower costs on day one, and that is entirely turned upside down. Costs are up, and this economy is weakening day by day with Trump at the helm.
Really quick, Senator, before I let you go, Paramount Skydance now making a bid for Warner Brothers. You're worried about a concentration of power there?
Yeah, just too much, okay? Too much in the same industry, and understand who really gets hurt here. It's the other competitors, but it's also every customer. Every customer who's only got one place to go, because what have we learned in every industry? When you end up with more concentration, prices go up, that hurts the customer. Customer service goes down, innovation goes down, and other businesses end up withering often and dying. Look, I believe in markets, but for markets to produce their magic, there's got to be competition, not concentration.
Senator, thank you so much for your insight, especially at this critical time. So appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hope to have you back soon.
You bet.
That's Senator Elizabeth Warren. Josh, I'll send it back to you in New York.